This is the On Cloudmonster, and On calls it playfully weird. But the only thing I care about is, does it work? It's time to lace up these shoes and take them for a run. .44 miles, 8 minutes, 30 seconds per mile, going for a nice and easy first run in the On Cloudmonster. Now, before I give you my thoughts on this shoe and how it did so far, I do want to go over some disclosures. On sent me these shoes to review. However, they're not paying me to make this video or to use the shoe, and they're not going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the On Cloudmonster. Now, let's first get into some specs on this shoe. Now, it certainly looks like a tall shoe, and I think it is the tallest stack height shoe that On has ever made, coming in with a 30 millimeter stack height in the heel and a 6 millimeter drop, giving us 24 millimeters of midsole in the forefoot. Now, this midsole definitely has an unusual design, especially if you've never seen or experienced an On shoe before. Now, what we've got here in the midsole is kind of two things. The foam is called Helion foam, and they arrange it in the On shoes into these little bubbles or kind of honeycombs that they call their Cloud Tech. Now, the idea with these is that as you step on them, it compresses these different chambers that are in the various portions of the shoe, and then that absorbs impact from the road. And then as you're pushing off, that decompression of that Cloud Tech provides a propulsive feeling and a springy sensation as you're running forward. Now, to prevent all of this from getting too squirrely, there's a couple of things that they're doing in this shoe. And one is they've got this guide channel to make sure everything kind of compresses in a forward motion. And also what they have is a speed board, which is back here. It's this hard piece of kind of like a plastic that functions a lot like a carbon fiber plate in that it provides stability so that things don't get too squirrely as your foot hits the ground, but also it compresses, and then that energy has to go somewhere. So as your foot takes off, it decompresses and gives you a little bit of a springing sensation that combines with the decompression of those clouds is supposed to give On that kind of signature feel. Now, in addition to that, on the outsole, there is some strategically placed rubber. You are running a little bit on some of this exposed Helion foam, but there are patches of rubber here. And in the previous experience that I had with On shoes, I do like the way that they are approaching their outsoles. Plenty of grip, but also it feels like they are keeping weight down by not putting too much rubber in that outsole. The one thing that I've noticed, and I'm not sure if all On shoes are like this, but the one thing that I'm definitely noticing on this shoe is that the rubber on the forefoot is a lot thinner than the rubber on the back of the shoe, and I'm guessing that's going to be more for kind of overall long-term longevity and durability in terms of how much wear and tear you're going to be experiencing on this shoe. Moving to the upper, we have a bit of a departure from what they're normally known for, which is their absolutely stunning design and upper construction. And it still very much looks like an On shoe, and the heel cup very much feels like an On shoe. I am enjoying just the minimal amount of padding that they have in the heel, and there's not a ton of stuff in terms of structure in the back. So I feel like the shoe fit is what keeps you secure and not like pieces of plastic that are in there. So I really like the way that the shoe fits, but there aren't as many kind of overlays and different design elements as you might normally see in an On shoe. And instead, what we have is a couple of what I feel like are kind of like Americanized elements in terms of like the word Cloud Tech written in TPU on top of this upper that is going to give it a little bit more structure, but also some weather protection as well. Now, overall, the other thing that I do want to make sure that I mention about this shoe is that the upper is made out of a lot of recycled materials. 80% of the polyester that goes into this is made from recycled content, and I believe all the TPU elements of this are 100% recycled as well. As far as the lacing goes, it's a very minimal lacing system, so I think that they're kind of keep everything very simple and let the story for this shoe really be these giant clouds that are underfoot. And altogether, this shoe comes in at a stated weight of 9.7 ounces. So what was it like to run in this shoe? I will say that I probably enjoyed this On shoe more than any other On shoe that I've run in before. I think I've run in 2 other On shoes over the years, the most recent one being the CloudStratus, which used a double stack of smaller Cloud Tech bubbles, are they called? I think they should call them honeycombs because they look like honeycombs to me, but those Cloud Tech kind of pockets, there was a double stack of them, but I think that in terms of the sponginess, the springiness, the bounciness, I feel like the Cloudmonster does On better than On has ever done On before. A lot of the times in previous On shoes, these clouds that are down here, these bubbles, these honeycombs, a lot of the time just feel like a bit of a gimmick, and it always has made me wonder what would these shoes be like if they pivoted away from this Cloud Tech. But now in the Cloudmonster, this is really the first time where I'm feeling, okay, I see where they're trying to go with these clouds. I really feel the clouds. I get the kind of differentness of it, and the form finally starts to match some of the function in my mind. So I had a really nice, pleasant feeling as I'm hitting the ground that it's actually compressing, and then as my foot's lifting off, that the shoe is actually kind of working with me to help keep everything nice and peppy. Really, I feel like this is where On shoes should have started, with just these giant bubbles, the biggest that you can make, so that way it's really clear what the Cloud Tech is supposed to be doing, because I feel like I'm very much getting a sense of what the brand is trying to accomplish with their midsoles with this shoe. But that being said, it looks like a max cushion shoe, and I think it's definitely like targeted design-wise to speak to more of an American max cushion loving audience. But I don't really feel like this is a max cushion shoe, because it's still very much at its core like the other On shoes that I've tried, where there's definitely the speed board that's in there that prevents things from getting too squishy, and you're kind of standing right on top of that speed board. So I feel like even though there's a lot of compression happening with this foam, I don't feel a lot of kind of plushness. I don't feel a lot of softness as my foot hits the ground. So it still feels to me, as someone who does like big squishy shoes, it doesn't feel like a max cushion shoe in my mind. It didn't really love when I was running slower. I do like the softness. I do like kind of the compression that I'm getting with each step, but there's also kind of a tempo or a cadence to the way that these clouds will kind of compress and then decompress. And so there's like a rhythm to it. And when I'm running at my slower paces, my rhythm and the shoe's rhythm were a little bit kind of out of sync a little bit. And so until I was at kind of like my easy pace, or maybe just a little bit faster than my everyday running pace, that's when I kind of forgot about the shoe, and my mind could kind of wander and start daydreaming and just really lock into a flow and just start running and enjoying the miles. Now, I think that the main comparisons that I'm going to make with this shoe in terms of just these first impressions so far is comparing it to the CloudStratus, which is a shoe that I just recently got to the 100-mile mark, and I did really enjoy as far as On shoes go. And I think in terms of if you're looking at both of those two shoes, I think there's a couple of ways to look at how to decide which of the more cushioned daily trainers you might want to use. And to me, I feel like the Cloudmonster is a shoe that kind of bounces a little bit more. It squishes a little bit more, maybe something for those forefoot strikers that they're going to appreciate a little bit more in terms of what's comfortable for them. For the CloudStratus, I think if you are someone that rolls through your foot strike and you're a little bit more of a midfoot to maybe even a heel foot striker, and you're using more of the shoe with each foot strike, then I think that the CloudStratus is probably going to be the better option for you, because that double stack of Cloud Tech in the smaller kind of bubble configuration, I think is going to work really well as you're distributing the weight and impact of each foot strike as it hits the ground. And another way of kind of looking at it is, I do think that the CloudStratus kind of looks a lot better. I feel it looks a little bit more squarely on in terms of their very distinctive styling, and I love the way the CloudStratus looks. This Cloudmonster does not look quite as nice to me in terms of a shoe that I would want to wear both running and perhaps casually as well. That the On CloudStratus is a shoe that I'm more drawn to, not only aesthetically, but also in terms of fit. I felt like the fit on the CloudStratus felt a little bit more dialed in a way that supported me, not only when I was running, but also whenever I'm just wearing the shoe casually as well. I'm not saying that it's just much more snug, but I just felt like the fit felt a little bit more tailored to my foot. So ultimately, who is this On Cloudmonster for? It certainly isn't the cheapest shoe, and you're not gonna really be looking at this shoe because you want a bargain daily trainer or a bargain max cushion shoe. So I think that the people that are really gonna love this shoe are people who are very curious about On and have been wanting to try an On shoe. This is probably the first shoe that I'm gonna direct them to, either that or the CloudStratus, but probably this, because you're really going to be able to feel what the Cloud Tech is intended to do and how it's supposed to feel. The other person that I think would really enjoy this shoe is the people that are loving all the On shoes and you have many pairs. If you are loving Cloud Tech and you love On shoes, then this is definitely one that you're gonna wanna pick up as well. So those are my thoughts on Cloudmonster after just this first run. I'll be putting a lot more miles into this shoe, so hit the subscribe button so you can see as I start comparing this shoe to other shoes that I think are comparable in the market. And by hitting the subscribe button, you'll know when those videos are up. If you have any other questions about the On Cloudmonster, feel free to stop by the live stream that I do Monday through Friday right here on YouTube. I do it over on my Kofuzi Run Club channel. I'll post a link to that in the description down below. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?